May 4th, 2026. I started the week by continuing to shrink the steam box to prepare for bending more of the Outwales onto the hull of the boat, this time focusing on the extension. When I had originally built this steam box, I built a 10-foot extension that would slip over the end to give me room for any extra long pieces. Since I was trying to reduce the overall volume that I had to heat up, and I can't even get lumber any longer than 16 feet around here anyway, I decided to cut the extension down to just over 2 feet. Once I had the extension assembled, I cut the collar to fit the new steam box dimensions and slipped it over the end, screwing it in place. In total, I have just over 13 feet of room, which will be perfect for when I start steam bending the frames, since the longest one is 12 feet. I also was given some reflective bubble wrap insulation, so I wrapped it around the box along with the thrift store blankets, and then cinched everything together with some lengths of rope. I'll likely get some rigid insulation to do a more permanent job in the future, but this will work fine for now. After that, I started loading up more of the hemlock 1x4s that I'm steaming into place to make up the temporary outwells. I didn't explain it very well last week, but I'm installing these as a way to reinforce the hull so that I can start to remove more of the pieces inside, namely the build stringers and shear clamps. These outwells are going to roughly mirror the placement of the stringers and clamps, just on the outside of the hull, and make it so that the boat won't completely fall apart once I take them out. After an hour or so of steaming, I finished up the course that I started last week, and then doubled up the 1x4s, being sure to stagger the joints. I'm really enjoying the process of steam bending. There's something really satisfying about being able to bend a normally solid piece of wood into a graceful curve around the hull. Last month, BLUETTI sent me a big power station to do the heavy lifting required to run some of my larger tools like my table saw and vacuum. It has a ton of capacity and power output, but I also needed something a bit more portable that I could easily throw in the car or carry inside of the boat, so they sent me over their Elite 300. Somehow, they crammed over 3,000 watt hours into this little unit. It was pretty dark inside the boat with the rain and tarp, so I plugged a few lamps in addition to the string lights. I also found this flashlight air pump combo thing in the trash and was able to plug it into the 12-volt DC socket to give me even more light. I like that the unit has dedicated USB sockets too, so that I can easily charge my phone and camera batteries without a power brick. I thought I'd test it out by using my infrared paint strippers on some of the old paint inside of the hull. It didn't even get close to the 2400 watt output limit. I could comfortably run both of the paint strippers and all of the lighting at the same time without tripping any breakers. After a while, I could see the air was getting thick with paint smoke, and even though I have a much better respirator now, I thought it was best to wait until the tarp wasn't trying to suffocate me before I used the paint strippers inside the boat again. Even after using the tools and all of the lighting for almost 45 minutes, the battery still had over 90% left. And later, when I plugged it in to charge, it only took 15 minutes to get back to 100% on the turbocharge setting. This will make a great portable unit and to bring car camping one day. If you're interested in the Elite 300, you can check the link in the description below and use my discount code. May 5th. I thought I would see if adding a second hose from the can to the steam box would add more steam flow and help it heat up faster and stay hotter. I also tried using some heavier gauge aluminum foil to make the windshield around the burner, but it almost instantly melted, way faster than the thinner stuff did. Weird. I'll make a permanent one later out of sheet metal. Once I had the steam box heating up, I loaded the next round of strapping in and headed inside to do some more demo. In order to install the upper outwell, I'll need to remove the mainmast chain plates, which are bolted through a large wooden backing block. In order to remove it, I had to undo all of the acorn nuts and then knock out the carriage bolts with a punch. Unfortunately, a few of them were so tight that they had become recessed into the wood enough that I couldn't get a socket onto them. After I chiseled out enough material around the nut, I was able to turn them with a socket, but I found that a bunch of the carriage bolts were just spinning in their bores. So I broke out the grinder and started grinding down the acorn nuts until I could punch out the bolts. I thought for sure that these were stainless nuts, but it turns out that they're just plated bronze, which is great because bronze is softer and easier to grind. Once I had all of the through bolts out, the backing plate popped right off. It looks like it was affected pretty badly by rainwater because the entire back of it is covered with pockets of dry rot. With all of the chain plates and other bronze fittings out of the way, I was able to start installing the upper outwheel. The only hiccup was when I tried to put some edge set into the board around a midship. It absolutely did not want to bend that way, but it's still pretty close to following the shape of the hull. With the amount of boards I could fit in the steam box, I was able to do the first course and start the second. After that, I finished the day by pulling the starboard side chain plates. I was able to avoid using the grinder by clamping a small pair of vice grips onto the head of one of the spinning carriage bolts, stopping it against one of the other bolts, which gave me just enough purchase to crack the nut loose inside. May 6th. While I waited for the steam box to heat up, I started removing the chain plate backing block and what is apparently the only hanging knee in the entire boat. bunch of the screw heads were stripped, so I ended up having to drill them out. When the rebuilding starts, I'll be sure to add plenty of knees back in to help stiffen the boat up. Once the backing block was off and the strapping was finished its time in the sauna, I bent them into place and finished the second course and the upper outwell. I'm happy with how this project turned out, but this took way too long. I'm going to take a break to build myself a proper boat shed so that I don't spend another 15 hours searching for tools in the next month. It'll be a big change and it won't be here, but I think that it'll be worth it in the end.